I'm going to turn it over now to Travis Bies, who ranches out in western South Dakota. He's been a customer of Wulf cattle since the early 80s, and I'll let you tell you a bit about his program and how he implements crossbreeding into his system.
Cattle for letting me to come up and talk a little bit about our ranch and how we've used limousine genetics to build our ranch and for our family. Again, H&T Bies Cattle Company is located out in western part of South Dakota. Who's H&T Bies Cattle? I'd like to introduce my parents, Harold and Judy Bies. On the right hand of your screen is my wife. We've been married for about 22 years, and just like any family business, you always want to have the next generation to pass it down to, and hopefully that they'll be involved. So just kind of quick, I have 4 daughters and my son Trey here sitting next to my parents, and then 4 teenage girls that are back at home, hopefully helping to take care of things. Like I said earlier, our base of operations is in western South Dakota out by Fairburn. We purchased this ranch about 21 years ago. And it consists of about 24,000 deeded acres and about 10,000 acres of the National Buffalo Gap grasslands that's administered by the Forest Service. Also, we take cattle up into the Black Hills every summer. We run about 1,000 pair up there, and they run on about 60,000 acres of Forest Service land that we lease. In the background, you can kind of see Deerfield Lake there. If you know anything about the Central Black Hills, that's kind of where that part of the ranch is located. Also, up in the hills, we run on a couple thousand acres of deeded land. We do take some private cattle onto the private land that's adjacent to our Forest Service there. Why did we use limousine genetics to build our cow herd? My parents, back in about 1979, started out with the typical Angus cattle that was there in the late 70s. Actually, they started in 1960, right after they were married, starting to build their ranch with about 40 head of cows. And by 1979, limousine was starting to get really gain ground here in the United States. They tried them, and that's when our association with the limousine breed started. Why the limousine cattle? It's just like we heard earlier, crossbreeding. It works, and not too long ago I leased a ranch from a guy, and I had to run a few head of cattle for him. And he had pretty well traditional cattle. He had about 50 head. There was kind of a mixed breed. The first year I took him over, I put a limousine bull on. In 1 year, from one calf crop to the next, they gained 100 pounds in weaning weight. They had Hereford cows, gray cows, he had baldy cows, and it took 1 year to put 100 pounds of weaning weight on a calf. Some of the genetics that we used over the years to build our own personal herd, you probably noticed a lot of these bulls, probably have bought some of them. The number one bull that I like to use the best in our cows years ago, and my parents, was Wulf's Guardian. If you talk to Jerry, he'll probably tell you it wasn't the best marbling bull, but when you got an Angus-based cow sitting there, I think the marbling come along with it, and our best females that we retain back for our replacements come out of Guardian and Wulf Hunt. One of the other bulls we used a lot was a lot of First Down, and one bull that we don't have mentioned on here was Keystone. We used him also quite a bit to build our cow herd. Docility. Whenever I tell people I run limousine bulls, they say, "Are you crazy? You running them wild things?" Well, I'll tell you, here about 3 years ago, I went down into New Mexico and bought a commercial bred heifers, about 250 of them. And then the first year, we culled out over 30% of them. They would run you out of the corral. So when you talk about docility, I think the limousine breed has done a lot to improve that in the cattle that you buy today. I put these pictures up.
Was your New Mexico cows limited? Did they have any limousine?
No, they were straight Angus commercial heifers. Yeah. So we still have some today. Like I said, we culled out probably 30% of them the first year just because of their temperament. This screen here I wanted to put up, show you some calves. These calves that are calves from the 2015 calf crop. They were born just after February this year. And if you look at that calf on the left, you can really see the muscle in his hip. And that's after just over a month's worth of age. If you were standing over top this calf, when I was out taking pictures here a few days ago, and you look down the top of that calf, his back was probably, you know, already a good 6 inches wide, and you could see the muscle forming down his back. And then you look at the curve of the hip and the shoulders on that calf, you can tell there's a lot of red meat there. And the second calf there is also, he's probably a 50% calf. We do have some, like I said, some straight Angus cattle in the herd, but you can already see this calf also. You can see that crease in the back hip where that muscle's starting to form. And the length of body on these calves, you can see there's a lot of good rib length there and depth in these calves. On this picture here, I put this in here. This is a commercial heifer, straight Angus heifer that we purchased this year, and that's an AI straight Angus calf. But if you look in that back hip, you don't see that round muscle forming. And this calf is about the same age, within the same week as the other two. And you can just tell the meat's not there. But I'd like to take these 3 calves after they come out of a feedlot and see them hanging. And I'll bet you them other 2 calves will yield more meat than that black calf. They may wean off these cows at 650 pounds each, but the other 2 are going to have more meat in the end. The Angus calf, I think, is just going to have too much waste, where the Limousine calves are more lean, put more meat on. Here's some of the steers that Wulf Cattle had bought from us, and this is why we crossbreed. You can see the muscle structure and the length in them in those steers once they're being fed. In 2013, we just got our stats back from Wulf Cattle on how our herd averaged, and this is on over 1,000 head of feeder calves that we sold to Wulf Cattle, and they graded 86% choice. And that's kind of, I don't know what the herd average is, but I think when you're starting to get into the high 80% on choice on a crossbred, you're kind of getting up there towards the top. So why is we stayed with the Limousine breed for 36 years? Marketing options. Today's industry is calling to know where their food products are coming from, who's handling them, and the quality. Years ago, we always did the sale barn sale. We did the superior livestock, which are all good avenues for marketing cattle. But for us today, for H&T, we feel that there's more return on our cattle when we go through the verified programs. So we verify for GAP, we get verified for all natural, NHTC, source and age, and then the 5th one is where the majority of your producers are, and that's the commodity cattle, because they don't take the steps to verify their cattle. And when you do that, you limit yourself to one option for your feeder to market their cattle after they buy them for you. And when you go through the verified programs, you're giving them basically 5 options to market them cattle in different ways. And when you can do that, that makes them more profitable. It makes the packer more profitable to hit the niche markets with your cattle. The function of the cattle, what I mean by that is half-blood, three-quarter blood cows that we like to raise and keep for our replacements. One thing that today was mentioned already was longevity. How long does that cow last? We have half-blood and three-quarter blood cows lasting and producing good calves until about 14 years of age. I think that percentage comes up all the time since we started crossbreeding. One other thing, we put our